You know, I woke up this morning, everything was absolutely white. A cloud blew right through this mountaintop property that I live on. Some people say my head is in the clouds, and I say, sometimes that's right. Love living up here. You never know what the weather is going to bring. Now, these are all photos and a little bit of video just from this morning. And the irony of it is this only lasted for about 2 minutes. And then the sun came out, the clouds lifted, and everything was gone. So the point of this little explanation is you got to be ready. When things happen, if you're not ready for it, you don't see it. I was mentored by a pretty famous photographer who told me that the key to good photography is being there before it happens. Seeing things ahead of time, projecting that it's going to be good, or knowing an area where things happen, and then getting there ahead of time and waiting for it to occur. So that's my little photography tip for the day, and this guy was a master. So we did some view work today up on my property, and I'm doing a little bit of a transitional. You can see that one little piece right there. Well, it was actually quite a bit of work to do that, but we improved the view significantly on my property of the Santa Clara Valley. And interestingly, we have a view of the Apple complex. I don't know if you can see it down there. There it is, that big round circle out there. It's pretty amazing, actually. It's an enormous complex. Look at that. I'd love to go in there and see the trees. Enough of that, let's get to work. This is actually the next day, and you can see how foggy it is. This job, I'll explain it in a little bit here. This is the end of it. Are you ready? Did you not grab?
Good.
Did you not grab there, or did you
Yeah,
stop?
I like it.
That's the Blake's hitch. So this is one of the disadvantages of working with knots. If you've got them too tight and you're not completely aware of it, they can stop and grab hold of the rope on the way down. And it happened to Jorge here. I mean, it's nothing catastrophic by any means. This is what the job looks like when we're all done, and this is how much that we took out of the tree. The client's concern was, like I said, twofold. They wanted more sun, but they also wanted to reduce the leverage on the lean, because as you can see, where the house was built a long time ago, a lot of roots were cut. Now, the topic of this isn't so much the tree work that we actually did, it's how we got all of this brush out of here. And we cut a considerable amount of brush and wood out of this tree, but it was a really awkward removal. I mean, I should say, getting the stuff out of here was really awkward. So we set up a line in the top of another oak tree, and here we go. This is what we would have had to take it down. I want to show you this in its entirety because we've got delicate plants all the way along. We've got delicate railing. We've got all kinds of new stuff. And it would have I think it would have destroyed my knees going up and down this with all the brush. Tight turns. This was the only way up the hill. They did not have any stairs up here except on the very, very far side of the property, which would have made it a nightmare. So what we're doing is we're rigging this in such a way that we can get a rope way up at the top of the tree, and we're going to send it all the way down to the driveway. That's zoomed in a little bit, but it's quite a distance there. And what I chose to do was I put my small bucket there, and you'll see in a little bit, is I put a pulley on the top of the bucket. Now, we didn't overtax the bucket by any means, but we put a pulley on the bucket so that we could rig kind of like a speed line. I guess it could be called a speed line. And we were able to get all the brush coming down from the top of the property in lots and lots of pulls. So the way we're managing it here is I am on the control line, and that goes through a pulley. That was one of the very first ones. We're starting out kind of small to test it. We did have to trim some of the oak brush back to get a clear shot of it. Didn't want to hit the house, didn't want to hit the railing or anything. It did require a little bit of bouncing up and down to get it all the way down, but after about, I'd say about a dozen attempts, I finally got it wired. But every time we finished up with all the straps, I had to run them back up. And I ran them up and down probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. So I guess we had about 15 straps. So I'm guessing we did this 75 to 80 times with both the brush and the wood. Now, there was a limit to how much I could hoist back up in the air and get it to come down. I put the camera down, so you didn't really get to see the best of the shots, and I finally had it wired, but this gives a good example of what I had to do to get this stuff down. It doesn't look very big, but each of these pieces was, 40 to 50 pounds. Now, I hardly ever have anybody to help me with any kind of camera work whatsoever, so oftentimes I just set the camera down and hope for the best. Here I'm just using the top of the garbage can as my tripod. I suppose I could bring a real tripod, but that means I have to think about it ahead of time. Sometimes I'm not that organized, but this was as interesting a procedure as we've done in a long, long time. And I think that, it could be utilized in a lot of hillside situations. I never really think about using the bucket truck as my second point, and I did have to situate it a few times to get the absolute right angle of the rope descent as well as the distance back. So I had to play with the bucket 2 or 3 times before I had it fully set up. As always, you know the routine. Leave a comment, subscribe if you're not subscribed, hit the bell. Help me out, would you? It's a game for me, but I'm playing it.